Welcome to the Trusted Visions podcast. We hope that everybody had a great Thanksgiving and were able to spend time with family. I am honored to bring David Perez and Deb Greer onto this podcast. They are part of the Trusted Visions team. Rather than you just seeing my pretty face, I wanted you to see the expertise of two very proven individuals in the industry. David Perez has spent well over 25 years in the financial services industry in various roles and focusing predominantly on the financial institutions side of the business over the last 5 or 10 years, but brings a wide array of experience to Trusted Visions. And we're very happy that he made the decision to join us earlier this year. Deb Greer is a proven veteran in the industry, been in the industry for, we won't speak too specific by any means, but over 25 years as well. She is a wealth of knowledge within the industry, worked with some of the top branches and top advisors in the industry. So I am very, very blessed to have two subject matter experts on this podcast. The purpose of this podcast, as I said from our previous one, is to really address questions that many advisors and financial professionals have in the industry. And that can be a wide range of topics. But something that I think is important to all of you. And I wanted to bring David and Deb on the podcast to really give a different opinion than what I may have, so that you don't think that, I'm just out here trying to spout my opinion. So we're really going to do, just to make it a little bit fun rather than covering a specific topic, really wanted to have somewhat of a round robin type of discussion on some things that we've seen in 2020 specifically around in the industry. And so with that being said, I'm going to kick it right off. And this first question, Deb, is for you. Ladies first, of course. Hope you guys both had a great Thanksgiving, by the way. First question is, we've seen recruiting has slowed down quite a bit for many firms with COVID and the presidential election. And we've seen some firms out there get much more aggressive than what firms have historically done with transition packages. I mean, we're seeing unheard of transition packages in the 50, 60, 70% range. And we all talk to advisors on a regular basis. And while the money is great, what my discussions with a lot of advisors is any money that a broker dealer is giving you, they're getting back one way or the other. And so what would you say to advisors you work with, Deb, as it pertains to getting that carrot dangled in front of them with such a large transition package? What advice would you give them when you're having those discussions with them?
So, hey, thanks, Jeremy, for letting me join you today, and along with David. This is fun. So I think, first of all, I would say, my father taught me a long time ago, there's no free lunch, right? So when you're getting offered those types of transition dollars, which are, overall, let's say 50% more than this industry and the standard in the industry is, it's kind of, you have to take a look at it and say, at what cost, right? At what cost are you getting that amount of transition dollars? And I think there's a couple things to look at. There's the cost to, what's the cost to you, the advisor, and then the cost to the BD, right? So first of all, for the advisor, that's really great. But let's take a look at what your expenses are, right? What are the costs to you? What are the fees that are going to be associated with that type of a transition package? What's the length of time that it's for? Just making sure that you've got a clear understanding of everything that goes in to, what your cost is for getting that amount of transition dollars, right? Because again, there's no free lunch. It's going to cost you something. And the other thing, quickly, I guess I would say, is what's the cost to the firm? Now, why is that important to the advisor? Well, for one thing, as firms have been doing this over the years, we all know that the question, at least I've asked myself, is, okay, how long can that firm sustain offering those types of payouts, right? I mean, it makes no sense to me from a business perspective, but they have But at some point, when does that catch up? When does that catch up with them being able to put money back into the broker dealer to make sure that they're keeping up on the services and the support for their existing advisors, right, that they have? And at what cost to their bottom line is, what is that going to be? Now, we did finally this last year with a couple of firms see where that at what cost, and that was their credit, right? So we did see a couple of firms that came out and there was, an issue with a downgrade in the credit. Or does it mean that they're going to get acquired? So I just think that that's things that as a rep is looking at, you have to take a look at the overall health of the firm and strength for these firms that are offering those types of payouts, right? Doesn't mean that they can't do it, it's not sustainable, but I just think that needs to be something that they have to take a look at, right? Because again, I'm going to go back to my point of there's no free lunch.
And you bring up a good point there, Deb, when you say, it may not be sustainable, but from the perspective of if they're giving those type of transition dollars, are they truly able to put money back into the business from a regulatory cost standpoint to stay up with, a few years ago it was DOL, now it's Reg BI, can they keep up with that and technology? So great point there. David, any just closing words on that question before we move on to you?
No, and thanks, Jeremy and Deb. It's been great. And Deb, you hit the nail on the head. Is we talk about it all the time, and there's some chasing the check can be dangerous. And we tell advisors all the time, chasing that check it can be a very dangerous option in some cases. But don't get me wrong, most of the advisors out there have built a very successful practice. Getting top dollar for your practice and getting top dollar to make a transition to another firm by no means is a mistake. It gives you the option to be able to put more money back into your business, successfully transfer your clients over to the new broker dealer, and hopefully bring in some new values and some new services that you didn't have at your previous broker dealer. But really what it comes down to is when you see those, I always take a step back and say, this is when due diligence is key. Mm-hmm. Take your time, take a look at what you're doing, look at the finances, Deb, that was perfect. You got to basically take a look at the money. Where's it coming from? And then complete your due diligence. Make sure your ownership is sound at the broker dealer, what their values, what they're trying to bring, and what they've done in the last not only 12 to 24 months, but what's been their outlook for the last 5 years, and what do you think it's going to look like 5 years going forward? And in a lot of cases, it's the reason we're here. We're independent consultants. We're here to help the advisor uncover those obstacles, ask the hard questions, and really help them as an independent third party of saying, these are the things you've got to take a look at. We've got your best interests in mind. We want to make sure that you and your practice and your clients are taken care of at the end of the day. And that's the nice part about having options to be able to move advisors where the fit is better for them after the due diligence has been done.
And quick question, just one or two answer question for both of you is, my opinion, when you see firms that are offering way outside the norm, I mean, if you're going from 20 to 30%, I don't necessarily consider that outside the norm, but when you're going from 20 to 50, 60, 80%, it's pretty far outside the norm. Would you guys say that's a sign of either desperation of the broker dealer because they're not, having the recruiting successes that they feel that they should have? Or is it a sign, or is it a combination of both, a sign of, that firm may be gearing up to have strong growth over the next 12, 18 months to position themselves well to be purchased by an acquirer? Deb, what would be your thoughts on that?
Well, I think you definitely, those are great points, Jeremy, and you definitely have to ask yourself, okay, if firm A is offering 25%, firm B is offering 50%, or again, the industry standard is between 20 to 30, and you have a couple of these firms offering 50 to 60. I'm just, parking it there, right? Why? It really should make advisors pause and go, why? Is it because they are lagging in service on one side? So it's like a revolving door, right? They're continually having to replace the advisors that have left the firm. Because if you've got a good solid value proposition and you have something to offer the advisor, you've got good support, again, you've got a good platform, good value proposition, there should not be such a discrepancy in the transition packages. So I will always just make sure the advisor takes a look again a little bit deeper into the firm, especially when you've got that much of a difference.
David?
I agree. It's just, again, it really comes down to really looking and doing the due diligence, making sure that you just don't get blinded by the dollar signs and doing the research and partnering with the right people, getting the right answers to the right questions. What I always tell everybody, it's all about finding out the good, the bad, and the ugly to really make an intelligent decision on which direction you want to go. And a lot of that has to do with the financials, but it has to do also with what the firm's objectives are. Where have they been? Where have they gone? Are they looking to just build it so they can sell it? You've got to be cautious. And it all comes down to the due diligence and getting the right answers to the right question.
Perfect. So David, we're going to pick on you a little bit. You've, focused, not the majority of your career, but throughout your career, you have focused on what I would consider niche markets, the financial institution side, the insurance side. And so I would consider you a subject matter expert in many things, but in particular this question, we back in the early 2000s, even into the 90s, you've seen a lot of niche broker dealers that focused on faith-based advisors. Some focused on financial institutions, some focused on CPAs and accountants. And with the ever consolidating marketplace, is there still a place for them going into a new year and further beyond with all the consolidation that's happened, or are they better suited being part of a larger firm with a segmented approach within that larger network? What are your thoughts on the niche broker dealers, and can they withstand the consolidation that we all know is going to continue to happen, probably even more fast and furious than it has over the last 10 years?
Absolutely. One of the biggest things on the independent side is the consolidation. Gone are the mom and pop broker dealers, the regional broker dealers. You've got a lot of big broker dealers out there, and they're continuing to merge. That's tenfold on the financial institution side of it, and even in the CPA or niche markets out there when it comes to these environments. The financial institutions not only have merged, your credit unions, your financial institutions, they have partnered up with other institutions. So there's been a huge consolidation on that side of it. So it's getting more and more difficult. The advantage was, in a lot of cases, you had the availability to partner up with a larger firm. For example, when you worked in a financial institution, you had access to their clients. You had access to lobby traffic. You had access to more people getting that message out for you as a financial advisor and the products and services that you provided. And it was a huge value. Now it's a little bit more difficult, even under the COVID arm, where when was the last time you've been to your financial institution? When was the last time you actually set foot in your CPA's office? Most of that stuff sent via email, you do video conferencing, and a lot of cases you don't have that traffic that you had before. So a lot of these individual advisors are finding it tougher to find those clients. Then bigger picture is the financial institution market is very small. Now you're making more and more concessions because you used to be able to have a list of 6 to 10 different broker dealers that would partner up with you, and that would be a good solid partner and understood, what a CPA does, what a financial institution is, and the challenges that go along with being in that business when it comes to marketing to their clients, the technology that goes along with it. That list is much smaller now. You've got very few partners out there to choose from. So it even makes it more difficult when you're out there on the niche side of it. Plus, you have a lot more when it comes to the approval process. You're more at risk in a CPA large firm with a bunch of people, or even on the financial institution side, because you have more approvals to get to make a move. An individual advisor can make a move by himself, makes that decision, does the due diligence. And the financial institution side, you may have a CEO you have to get approval from, may need board of approval, you may need a CFO, and then the advisor also has to do due diligence to find out if it's going to be a good fit for them. And if the due diligence isn't done ahead of time, time is not going to be on your side when it comes to making a change. And so what it comes down to is you have to do a tremendous amount of homework, and it takes a longer time to really find that right partner that's going to fit you and your business. So it's become a lot more difficult.
Understood. And so for the sake of time, I want to jump into the last question. And this is really a question for both of you. I think we've all, the thing I love about the Trusted Visions team is we collaborate regularly and routinely, and we respect one another's opinions. And so I'm sure we've all formed our own opinion of what's to come in the financial services industry as it pertains to the consolidation. To your point, David, the large keep getting larger by acquiring, and more and more small, even medium-sized broker dealers, are rolling up into a larger network. What do you think? What does the industry look like over the next 2, 5, 10 years as it pertains to consolidation? And more importantly to that question, we talk to advisors each and every day. And my conversation with them is at least have a plan B in place, just in case something goes awry with your broker dealer. We're not going to sway anybody to make a broker dealer change if it doesn't make sense. But what advice would you give to an advisor when you're discussing a plan B in place? Because we've all seen this, especially this year, where advisors start looking at a plan B, and then they start to realize this is a better plan A, and it's a better fit for me, my practice, and my clients than the firm that I'm currently with. So what advice would you give with everything that's taking place and continue to take place in the consolidation of the industry? What advice would you give to a financial advisor, knowing where we're heading? Deb, we'll start with you.
So good question. And I think I would start with saying there's one thing that we in this industry know, that we can say for sure, and we can promise, right? And that is that there will be change. So, that's the one thing we can guarantee to an advisor as we're talking to them. And so for anyone, you may be perfectly comfortable with your firm, but it's always a good idea to have a plan B, because again, you never know what's going to happen, and it can change in the blink of an eye. And we see that over and over, year after year after year, right? It just, again, it's the one constant. So whether or not, and I'll get advisors that say to me, well, any firm can sell, right? Any firm can go under. Any firm this can happen to, and they're fine with where they're at, and so might as well just stay, with the person you came to the dance with. I don't know, I didn't think of any better analogy anyway. And while that may be true, right, but you can always make the point that that is true, and there is the possibility that with any firm you even make a move to, that something could happen with them as well. But I think here's the reason for a plan B, Jeremy, and that is, number one, you've got to make sure that you have a clear understanding of what your goals are, right? What your plan is for your firm. And therefore, that where you're at continues to meet those. And when that changes, if and when that changes, that you have plan B, right? So that while you may not want to make a move, you may be forced into making a move, because at the end of the day, you need to be with a firm that is going to be able to provide the services and the support and the growth opportunities that you need as an advisor to move forward. I'm not quite sure that answered fully your question,
Yep.
Jeremy, but that's kind of how I look at it, right? And maybe more of a little soft sell, that again, it just makes good business sense to always know what else is out there and to have a plan and an option.
Yeah, I've always said, and I tell advisors this, it's better to be able to choose where you go than somebody else choose for you. So great point there. David, thoughts, advice you would give to advisors that you talk to?
Absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head, Deb, and definitely Jeremy, on choice and having the control on making that choice. Having a plan B is not even to the point where if you're very happy with where you're currently at, you still should have a plan B. I grew up in the insurance side of the world. Everybody talks about financial planning and how important that is in our industry and everything that we do on a day-to-day basis. If you're not fundamentally bringing life insurance into a plan, it's not a real plan, because you've got to protect the downside. What if? You always have to protect yourself on the what if kind of scenarios. And even in the independent side of it, you lose a lot of control. If somebody decides to make a change or there's a consolidation, your control is gone. Now you're under the gun to try to make a decision. And in a lot of cases, those decisions aren't at the most opportune time in the marketplace right now, where things are going well and there's a lot of money to be had to make a move. It's something to entertain, not only on that side of it, but also just to make sure that you do the right amount of due diligence to find the right partner. And when you start looking at, when we talked a little bit about the niche markets and things like that, you look on the financial institution side of it. Not only is it control once again, but you lose a lot of opportunities when it comes to doing things like block transfers, which are unheard of in the independent side of the world, but are still can be ascertained in the financial institution sector of the market. But that's only if you have enough time to do it. And most mergers or anything like that, or any consolidation, usually goes pretty quick. You don't have the time to utilize things like block transfers. And that's going to hinder you moving that business, affecting your clients and everything else goes along with it. So you can lose some options when time has been taken away from you. So if you spend the time now, at least finding out what your options are, if you never have to use them, perfect.
Mhm.
Same thing with life insurance. You have it for the what ifs, but you hope you never have to use it. And that's what, I do when consulting with advisors. Make sure you have a plan.
Perfect. Well, Deb, David, thank you very much for graciously taking part in this podcast. I wanted to, make sure that as we're talking to clients, they were able to put face to name. I am honored that both of you chose to be part of Trusted Visions. We've had a great 2020. We hope that everybody listening to the podcast has a great remaining to their 2020 and going into 2021. Since I am technologically challenged, the last podcast we did, I couldn't show the box because David will admit he's my technology guy. But just as a reminder, we will randomly draw 2 individuals that watch our podcast for, I'm not going to tell you what's in it, but a special gift box, Trusted Visions gift box. So please don't forget to watch our podcast. Again, David, Deb, thank you very much. We are very glad that you're part of the Trusted Visions team.
Thanks,
Jeremy.
Jeremy.